The issue is coronavirus and what comes next. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, President Trump wants the economy open again, but needs a lot more help from Congress. Congressman Adam Schiff here to talk about another potential stimulus. Plus, the issue is California leadership. Governor Newsom earning national praise, but is the devil in the details? Politico's Carla Marinucci here with analysis. Finally, California strong. Baseball star Ryan Braun on playing in front of no fans potentially and raising millions to help Californians in need. The issue is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
And thank you so much for watching The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the president laying out his guidelines for reopening the economy while Congress debates what comes next. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
And by the way, we love your desk.
Thank you very much. I'm getting a lot of feedback on my desk these days.
All right. Let's talk about one of the big stories of the week, which is President Trump saying he wants the economy back open and basically giving the governors the green light to do things the way they want to do them. Gavin Newsom says he likes the broad strokes of what the president's saying. What say you?
Well, initially the president said that he alone was going to decide to reopen the country whenever he deemed it fit. But he's, I think, had to acknowledge the reality that, no, the governors are going to make these decisions on the basis of what's best for the people in their state. And you're already seeing governors band together with other governors in the region to try to work collectively because, of course, the virus doesn't stop at state borders. But they want to make sure, the governors want to make sure, and I think this makes all the sense in the world, that they are ready before they talk about reopening. This push to prematurely open really on a day when we had the greatest number of coronavirus deaths, over 4,000 in a single day, doesn't make sense until we're ready and could lead to more misery for people.
The economy is a miserable situation right now. One of the things that you guys did in Congress was you passed this $350 billion for small business loans, which really has allowed some people to keep their employees employed. Now that's out of money, and there's a debate about what happens next. What do you say to people that are really desperate right now and that see this bickering in Congress and say, what's going on there?
Well, I've been on the phone with small businesses, with small nonprofits. They want to see this program continue, and I think on a bipartisan basis, so do the members of Congress. But they've identified a lot of problems with it. People, particularly customers of large banks that apply, that are told, don't call us, we'll call you, have no idea whether their application is moving forward or not moving forward. And it looks like the big banks are giving their favorite customers the best treatment and leaving others behind. We want to make sure those problems are addressed.
Have you worked out a framework to potentially vote virtually or do virtual caucuses to actually make some of this legislation happen?
We're exploring not remote voting yet, but rather being able to designate a proxy so that someone who is in ill health or very distant from the Capitol that doesn't want to or can't take the risk of getting on a plane right now because they're quarantined or for some other reason, they could say, I'm going to give my proxy to this member to vote for me. But it would be under very narrow circumstances. It would be not a broad delegation that says, for example, Adam Schiff could vote for me, but rather on this vote, this is how I want the vote conducted, and I'm going to authorize so-and-so to cast that vote for me.
One issue that may not have as much bipartisan agreement, but is certainly an interesting idea, is this Federal Paycheck Guarantee Act, which you are now supporting. Explain to folks how that would work and talk about if that has a chance of passing.
I've thought really for months now that the best approach to this economic problem that we have, this economic crisis, is not a quilt of different programs, a $500 billion fund for these industries or a different fund for smaller businesses and overwhelming our unemployment compensation system, but rather have the federal government, as the British government and the Swedish and Norwegian and other governments are doing, have the federal government guarantee a large percent of payroll, 80 or 90 or even 100% of payroll, until we get through this, so that workers don't get laid off. They don't have to go on unemployment. When the economy comes back, they don't have to start looking all over again for a job. Businesses don't have to close, and it's done fairly. To me, that's simpler, more equitable, and it can be done through the IRS more quickly than through the commercial banks and the SBA.
So how expensive is that, and are you seeing any Republican support for it?
Depending on what range you use, the costs differ. It might be $150 billion a month. But frankly, the way we're going through the funds for the small business program, the amount we've allocated for large industry, we're going to go through that amount anyway. And it would be better, I think, to do it in a more equitable way, in a way that avoids people and small businesses and laying off large numbers of people.
Let's talk for a moment. We always like to have a little fun on this show. Quarantine life, what it's like for you. And we spoke recently. You said you were not doing The Tiger King. You were doing old movies. Have you changed on that? And what are you watching these days?
Well, I just watched Diner, which was fantastic. I hadn't seen it in years. And so I'm continuing with the old movies. I'm also really jumping from show to show to see, which one will capture my attention. And I'm open to recommendations of your audience. But one thing I will tell you is my daughter gave me a haircut. You can be the judge of how she did. But if people look at my Instagram page, they'll see the video that she put together of it, which I thought was quite clever. But then she is my kid, and I think everything she does is very clever.
Very nicely done. I don't know, were you a band person back in school, in high school or middle school?
I played jazz saxophone and clarinet.
Okay, I also played saxophone back in the day, and we like to feature different music on this show. So I want to show this video to you. It's from Miracosta High School in Manhattan Beach. Their band, they were all set to head to Washington D.C. to perform for leaders like you, but obviously they can't do that right now. So they made a video with 150 band members performing virtually. It's pretty awesome.
Fantastic.
A little Jackson 5. Let's listen. So bravo to those band kids.
Wow.
It's I Want You Back from Jackson 5. Congressman, we want you back in the studio sometime soon. But until that day.
I will see you on the other side of the curve.
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side of the curve. We appreciate you joining us. Nicely done again on the decorations, and enjoy those old movies. The hair looks nice.
Thank you.
Up next, Carla Marinucci of Politico breaks down what's next for California politics. Stay with us. More of the issue is after this.
I must tell you, Gavin Newsom has been gracious. Los Angeles, California, the job we've done, and all of California.
Who could have imagined that a few months ago? President Trump, Governor Newsom's weird bromance during this coronavirus crisis. Let's talk about that and more with Carla Marinucci. She is the dean of the California Politico Reporter. She writes the playbook for Politico. It's a free email newsletter. You must subscribe to it if you love this stuff like she and I both do. Carla, welcome back to The Issue Is.
So good to be here, Alex. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Governor Newsom doing these briefings every day at noon, big ratings up and down the state. How do you think he's doing?
I mean, this has been amazing. Governor Newsom spent the first year in office making himself a thorn in the side of President Trump. And now, this is how crazy it is. He's a breakout star in the president's reelection ad campaign. And that came out this week. And that just shows how things have changed. I mean, Newsom is a star in national politics. He's on Ellen DeGeneres today. He's become a hot item on The View. His poll numbers are through the roof. He's number one among all of the governors in terms of job approval rating right now. 83%. That's up more than half, 50% up since before the COVID pandemic. And in part because, look, he and Donald Trump are now BFFs. I mean, they are getting along. Trump is praising him every day. And that has worked in Newsom's favor. He has gotten what he's needed for California. Californians like that. Even his political foes are saying, he's shown discipline, he's shown focus. And he's been able to do things like create a consortium with Western states, put together $1 billion deal on masks. At this point, Gavin Newsom is riding high. We'll see how long that lasts.
And, Newsom made a big splash. He went on Rachel Maddow, announced this massive purchase of masks from this Chinese company. But sometimes in politics, the devil is in the details. We had this virtual legislature hearing this week, which was really weird, with a few people wearing masks, other people trying to connect in virtually. It started an hour late because they couldn't get the technology to work, and then the system crashed because there was so much demand. But what they're looking at, the bottom line of that is they're thinking, does this deal really make sense that the governor's getting us in?
Now we're getting down to actually doing business again. And they did have a lot of questions. And what are the details? And Newsom's office basically says, well, right now, it's really fragile. We've got to get this thing done. It's a question, this is a real sort of competition here between legislators wanting to do their job and doing oversight, and Newsom's people saying, hey, let's take care of business first. Let's get these masks out. Let's save lives. The clash is going to be coming. We're going to see more of Newsom getting criticism from the legislature. I think right now he's kind of the golden boy because he's managed to handle everything at once and juggle all these balls with Trump.
Yet still, he's getting a lot of positive attention. Your pal, my pal, Jessica Levinson at Loyola Law School, writing an article suggesting that maybe Gavin Newsom should replace Joe Biden on the ticket.
I saw that.
Probably not going to happen, but that's obviously a good sign for Gavin Newsom. People are even bringing that up.
When it comes to Joe Biden, he's still not there yet. I think that's the interesting thing.
Joe Biden was on CNN this week, and the interview wasn't exactly inspiring. Let's take a listen.
Kinds of things that have to be done. There's during World War II, where Roosevelt came up with a thing that was totally different than he called it the World War II. He had the War Production Board.
Huh? What is that? I mean, Joe Biden is stuck in this situation where he's stuck at home. The president gets to go out on TV every day. These governors get to go out on TV and actually do something. And that's the response?
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, we've all had moments like that. Let me just say that Joe Biden is, as we know, is very articulate, is very impassioned, and has moments like this on Zoom that are going to be used against him. And you're absolutely right, Elex. I mean, the fact that he's in the bunker there delivering these messages, that puts him at a disadvantage to Donald Trump, who's out there every day at the White House briefing. Trump knows that. He's using those briefings sometimes to the ridiculous levels. They go on for 2 hours. Even conservative groups are criticizing him for that. But Joe Biden needs to be more focused, and people say maybe put together a kitchen cabinet and have discussions on Zoom, much like we're doing right now, to get his message across. That might be more effective.
And he could actually have it from his kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
The advantage of doing
as I am right now.
All right, Carla, it is always great to talk with you. Thank you for all the great questions during those briefings. We like to play music on this show, so this is pretty special, and this is so British. The BBC put together a virtual symphony session playing Mozart. It's extraordinary. Take a look.
Nice. Okay.
So I don't know about you, I can't even figure out how to mute myself on Zoom half the time. They're able to pull that off is really something.
That's amazing.
Hand it to them. Thank you, Carla. Check her out, the Politico playbook every day. Ryan Braun, California Strong, when we come back.
Prospect of mass gatherings is negligible at best until we get to herd immunity and we get to a vaccine.
California Governor Gavin Newsom this week on the future of mass gatherings in California. That, not particularly good news for concerts, festivals, and sports in the Golden State. Let's talk about that and more with Ryan Braun, the former MVP of the National League, star outfielder with the Milwaukee Brewers. He is also the co-founder of California Strong, which has raised more than $3 million for Californians in need. Ryan Braun, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
So we'll talk about the important charity work in a moment, but let's begin by talking about baseball. Do you think that you're going to be playing baseball in front of a crowd of people this season?
I'm optimistic that there will be some semblance of a baseball season. I think it will, in all likelihood, look drastically different than any baseball season we've played before or anybody else has had an opportunity to watch before. I don't think it's too likely that we play baseball in front of fans, at least any time in the near future.
We've heard the thought that there might be a baseball season where all the teams are all in Arizona playing with no fans. What do you make of that possibility?
I think, unfortunately, it might be our only option at this point. I think we're either looking at all teams in Arizona or half the teams in Arizona, the other half the teams in Florida where they have their spring training facilities. You eliminate a lot of variables that way. I think that having all 30 teams in 30 separate cities is something that's extremely unlikely.
I mean, you've been playing in front of big crowds since you were a high school star here in Southern California, 2 or 3 years ago. You've been playing in front of crowds for like 20 years, Ryan. What would that be like playing baseball for you in front of no crowd?
The atmosphere and the environment that the fans create is so unique. It's something that we're all incredibly appreciative of and grateful for. And it's not something that any of us as baseball players would choose to experience. But again, if the option is either no baseball or baseball without fans, we hope that we're able to play some type of baseball, even if it's without anybody in the ballpark.
When you think about sports, it's such an important part of the economy as well, not only for the athletes on the field, but you think about all the people, all the concession workers. I know you and your teammate and California Strong co-founder Christian Yelich have both given hundreds of thousands of dollars to help pay for the concession workers at Miller Park, where you play in Wisconsin. Think about that, all the people that are being impacted in all these different ways by what's happening here.
There's countless people that have been impacted, and it's heartbreaking to think about what they're going through. So for us to be able to do our small part and help those people, and as much as anything for them to know that we care about them, that we're going to be here to help them now and hopefully help them into the future, is something that is incredibly meaningful to us. But again, as you said, there's so many people that help allow us to be able to do our jobs, whose lives have been forever impacted by this situation.
Yeah, I mean, you've been giving in so many different ways. Let's talk about California Strong. This was co-founded by you and a group of other athletes back in 2018 following the Woolsey fire. You got this big celebrity softball game that is your main fundraiser with really big stars in it. And the last guy on the bench last year, I can't believe you recruited me to play. I somehow got a double, ran as fast as I possibly could without embarrassing myself. AKA MVP, right?
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think that you're clearly athletic. I think that once an athlete, always an athlete. You performed well. We enjoyed having you out there. But as you alluded to, the support we've gotten from other athletes, from actors, actresses, musicians, prominent people in the business world has been overwhelming. It's something none of us could have expected. And it allows us to help people in a time of need like this. I mean, this is literally an unprecedented time of need where almost every single human needs help. And the goal of California Strong is to be able to have the widespread impact and be able to help as many of these people as possible. And playing a celebrity softball game is something that allows us to generate funds to give back to these people who are in a time of need. And
you've already done that in this situation, given out more than $120,000 already in direct financial aid to Californians who are being impacted by coronavirus, $130,000 to researchers at UCLA, UCSF, Cedars-Sinai, plus providing over 100,000 meals to Feeding America, which is a great organization that's doing such important work. And you're not only doing that, you're also back home in Wisconsin, or where the Brewers play in Wisconsin. You're at home now. You're partnering with the 3rd Street Market, providing meals to healthcare workers. We have some images of that, and it really is remarkable when you see the healthcare workers and sort of under their masks, you can sort of tell the smiles on their faces as you're a part of helping to feed them.
Yeah, it's incredibly impactful. I mean, it's emotional to see those images. There's no more meaningful thing you can do on this planet than positively impact other people's lives. And I think for all of us as athletes, we've tried to use the position that we're in to help other people. There's no greater feeling for us personally, and then to hear their stories and to see the impact we've been able to make on people's lives is something that is incredibly impactful. I think it's just motivated and inspired us to try to do more.
Meanwhile, you're also a father of two of the cutest kids ever. I mean, I feel like you guys, the pictures of you guys is like what we should see in the frames that you would buy at a store or something. And
my wife deserves
you're now
all credit
home
for any cute pictures.
For the first time in your sort of career, you're now home with the kids. What's quarantine life like? How are you adjusting personally?
My kids are 3 and 5, and we actually have another child that's due in about a month. So we have our hands full, but at the same time, we are enjoying the extra family time. Really grateful, from my perspective, for the extra time that I'm getting to spend with them. Trying to make the best of it, trying to stay as positive as we can. But again, trying to keep them entertained all day is challenging at times. So I think all parents of young children could attest.
Are you nervous at all about having a baby during all this?
Yes, very. And obviously, we don't know what hospitals will look like a month from now. So it's scary. I think that anybody who's going through a similar situation would probably have a similar answer. It's not something any of us have ever experienced before. In about a month, we'll be in a hospital, and we just have to hope that we're put in the best position possible. But it's scary. Well, we're wishing you the best, a preemptive mazel tov to you and your family. Thank you. And we like to play music on this show. So we're playing something especially for you to remind you of a simpler time.
I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it, do it better than
this is, of course, Kanye West Power, which was your walk-up song last year. Why this song?
I change it up. I think as baseball players, we're all a little bit superstitious. So whenever you find a song that you're having success with, usually stick with it for a while. I've been a Kanye fan forever. He's an incredibly talented artist. And it's a song that I had some success with, so I had to stick with it.
You've had quite a bit of success in your baseball career, but I think what you've done off the field is really even more impressive. And we appreciate the inspiration that you are and all that you're doing for so many people in California. Ryan Braun, thank you so much. CaliforniaStrong.org. For Ryan Braun, more of The Issue Is right after this. Every week during this crisis, we honor the first responders. This week, Mariah Carey re-recorded one of her classics. We have added some images, our favorite images of this week, to go with her music. Thank you for watching The Issue Is, and thank you to the heroes.
And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on.